more likely that most of these business owners do not have a transition plan. And nationally, while more than half of small business owners expect to retire in the next 10 years, fewer than 15% have an exit plan in place. Despite that fact, 78% of small business owners intend to sell their business and fund their retirement. The Center for Businesses and Transition is a dynamic partnership between regional organizations and individuals invested in the retention of local businesses and the futures of our communities. The goal is to help business owners sell their businesses on the open market and become part of solving this problem of the silver tsunami. I just wanted to mention who our 2020 community liaisons are. And before I do that, I just want to thank Dani from ANCA for being our fearless leader in all that we do with this program. Involved as community liaisons for 2020 are Cornell Cooperative Extension, Franklin County Industrial Development Agency, Hamilton County Economic Development, Lewis County Economic Development, St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce, the Saranac Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, of course, us here at the Ticonderoga Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Greater Watertown North Country Chamber of Commerce. In addition, we have a few key lead partners that we work with regularly in regards to the program, and that includes the Adirondack Economic Development Corporation, the Adirondack Park Agency, the Essex County Industrial Development Agency, and the SUNY Canton Small Business Development Center at Clinton Community College. Now I'm going to introduce our panelists for today. I'm going to introduce them all, and then we'll go ahead and go back and let them further introduce themselves to their programs and some services that they offer. So on the call today for panelists, we have Angela Smith from the Small Business Development Center. We have Stephanie Donaldson from the Adirondack Economic Development Corporation. We have Carol Calabrase from the Essex County Industrial Development Agency. And we have Dani Delani from ANCA. Angela, can you start us off?
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Okay, can everybody see the screen? Because that is also sometimes a glitch. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Angela Smith, and I am the Assistant Director and a Certified Business Advisor with the Small Business Development Center at Clinton Community College. Let me see, can't share. I am unable to move my cursor to share the screen. Okay, might have to do it this way. Oh, sorry, everybody. All right, so the SBDC, let me start again from the current slide. So the SBDC is part of a network of over 1,000 centers throughout the US. And in New York State, there's 22 SBDC centers. So we've been around for a while. All of our counselors have previous small business management or ownership, which makes us really capable of understanding what small business owners are going through because we've lived it. We undergo continuous professional development. And in New York State, I have access to over 200 counselors, small business counselors, with various areas of expertise. Our core services within the SBDC is one-on-one confidential business counseling. We spend about 80% of our time working one-on-one with clients on various business overviews. We also provide business training seminars, about a dozen a year. And what makes us really unique in terms of small business technical assistant providers is that we have access to 4 full-time librarians located in Albany through our research network. So if you need market research, some of the multipliers that if you're considering selling or buying a business can be helpful for valuation. These are pieces of information that we can provide. All of our services are free of charge. I like to say they're prepaid, right? Because we're funded by taxpayer dollars. And once in a while with workshops, we do have to charge a fee if we're bringing in special speakers, so low cost services. We help small businesses in a variety of ways, from general setting up, bookkeeping, identifying sources of funding, MWB certification, but we do work with people, increasingly so, on buying or selling a business, preparing and testing the feasibility of people's idea. So you really only sell or buy a business potentially once in a lifetime, right? So it's really important to prepare. When you prepare in advance, especially for sellers, right? You might need 2, 3, and more years to clean up your books, and that preparation can actually help you increase the value of the sale. For people who are looking to buy a business, preparation such as having enough money saved, really understanding what's a good fit for you, can also make it a better deal when you start actually being ready to acquire a business. So how do we help small business owners? So we help people first and foremost make a plan, right? The first meeting is typically an interview to try and understand what is it you're trying to do, how much money do you have to invest, what's a good fit. So a one-on-one conversation to start making a plan. We can help educate people on the process of buying and selling a business. There are many, many steps involved in that process, and it's a complex transaction. So that's one of the places that we can help us educate people. And we can start with basic business valuation, because that's usually where the conversation starts, right? What's my business worth? If you're selling a business, if you're buying a business, like, is this a reasonable price? What we do is called the rule of thumb valuation or market valuation. So we look at cash flow, we look at sellers' discretionary earnings based on tax returns, and we will use industry multipliers from this business reference guide for your specific industry to provide you with a range of potential business value. But ultimately, a business value is to start the conversation, unless, of course, you're doing a stock sale, and that's a legal document that you'll need with the IRS, or if you're transitioning a business to family members through stock sales, then you'll need a professional valuation. But for most small businesses we work with, a good ballpark valuation is a great place to start. But ultimately, a business is only worth what someone's willing to pay. So even though you throw out a sale price, right, it's like negotiating to buy a home. It might be listed at $300,000, but it might end up closing for $250,000 because maybe you found out the roof is leaking, or maybe it sells for more because there's a lot of demand in the marketplace. We also work with people to help them understand that there will be other people likely involved in the acquisition or sale of the business, right? So you need to work, the SBDC won't replace accountants and attorneys. We provide information, not legal or tax advice. So you'll have to work probably with lenders, brokers, accountants, of course, the Center for Businesses in Transition. SBDC is a lead partner. So we often refer people over to Dani because, and her team, because they have the ability to maybe even do some matchmaking, which the SBDC cannot do. We will talk with buyers and sellers, and especially sellers, on how to market your business, right? 2 out of 3 business owners are struggling to find a buyer. So this piece is really important to prepare properly and do a lot of work to try and find someone to buy this business that you're trying to sell. We'll talk about places where you can either list your business or find a business to purchase, right? There's online centers, there's brokers, and of course the Center for Businesses in Transition. We'll also work with people to, especially this is for sellers, so you need to have documents ready to go. If you get a serious inquiry for someone to buy your business, you have to have something to show for them, right? So good pictures of your business, what the sale price include. If you're marketing to people outside of the region, you want to maybe promote why living in Saranac Lake or the Adirondack is the best place to be. Schools, different things like that. And a little bit of sales pitch about why people should buy your business, right? What's the right opportunity for growth and different things like that. SBDC can also help, so we won't negotiate on your behalf, but if you're preparing for a call with a potential buyer or seller, we can talk you through some things, that you want to negotiate on. We can also help to keep things moving, because when you involve lenders, attorneys, accountants, sometimes things get kind of stuck. And the SBDC, if we have permission from you to contact the different players, then we can kind of keep everybody going on the same page. And we've actually helped move deals a little bit more forward more quickly than if we hadn't been involved. We don't provide legal information, but we can provide samples of legal documents. So if you're curious about what a selling memo or confidentiality agreement might look like, we can provide you an example. But again, you should work with your attorney to make sure that these legal documents are prepared correctly. So just a little bit as I'm ending to clarify what our role is, right? So the SBDC provides information. We're not going to sell your business for you. We're not going to find your buyer. We don't write grants to help, sell your business. We have to remain neutral, so we can't advocate on your behalf for or against a project. And we're absolutely not a free substitute for accountants and other professionals. So you need to plan to spend a little bit of money to get proper legal and tax advice if you're considering buying or selling a business. What we can do is help you clarify your motivations and your goals. That's the first conversation we usually have with people. We can help educate people on how to do basic valuations, the buying and selling process. And we can assist with financial analysis. So testing the feasibility of your idea. Do the numbers work? If you're buying a business, your seller might be able to generate a profit because they have no debt. But when you're buying a business, you have to often add on, right? That debt load. Very few people can pay cash for a business. Does it still work? So these are things we can work with both buyers and sellers on with the financial analysis. Identifying sources of funding, such as with our economic development agency partners or with banks. That's absolutely something we can help you with. But please keep in mind that for many, many small businesses to successfully transition, an owner may have to hold the note. Many businesses in the Adirondacks do sell with a portion of the transition being held, an owner holding note. So that's something that's important to clarify with your accountant and attorney, how you might go about that ahead of time. We can also provide professional referrals. We have to provide 3. Again, SBDC can't endorse any one participant, but whether it's realtors, funding partners, whatever you need to, whoever you need on your outside small business team, insurers. We usually have a list of local area companies that work well with small businesses. And at the SBDC, we work with both the buyers and the sellers, but if you're coming to us, a buyer, for example, and a seller, you will have separate advisors because we have to protect confidentiality. And so you won't be able to work with the same advisor, but we can absolutely work with both buyers and sellers. So we're here to help you. There's no question that is too small. So just reach out and we'll start a conversation. And that's all for me.
Thank you so much, Angela.
You're welcome.
And next, Stephanie Donaldson from the Adirondack Economic Development Corporation. Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. AEDC was formed in 1976 as a community development organization. We serve a 14-county service area, so pretty much any area around here from the north way up, we cover. We're one of 24 centers for the Entrepreneurial Assistance Program in New York State. So we assist people with starting businesses and also growing their businesses. We also offer free confidential business counseling, like the SBDC. We offer a class each year on business plan basics. So we help people to write business plans during the course of that class, which is about 15 weeks. We also offer access to capital. So we do loans, SBA loans, and we have an underwriter who people apply to AEDC for a loan, and then he checks out the documents, and then there's a committee that decides whether or not the loan is approved. Our funding that we receive is via the SBA and also Empire State Development. We have a small staff, so there's 4 people in our office. We have our executive director, Victoria Dooley. We have our CFO, who is Beverly Deso. Our underwriter and the other business counselor is Stephen Garno, and then I'm the other business counselor. Our office is in Saranac Lake, and it's on Main Street at the top of Adirondack Bank, if you need to find us. And all the other information about the services we offer is on aedconline.com.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Carol Calabrase from the Essex County Industrial Development Agency will be next. Carol?
Good morning. This is Carol, as Matt said. I'm with the Essex County IDA. I am the co-executive director and CEO. The IDAs in New York State are have a variety of resources available for startup and expanding businesses. We work with all the partners that are here today, as well as state and federal partners. Some of the services that are offered through our office, we have resources such as our revolving loan program. Also for larger projects that need financing. For manufacturing, we have tax-exempt bond financing. Some other incentives through the IDA. There are programs called the straight leaseback. And under that heading, you can apply for resources such as a pilot, a payment in lieu of tax, mortgage recording tax abatement, as well as New York State sales tax exemption. All of these resources have applications and have criteria that you need to meet, but they are available for projects, and we are always available to discuss those projects and review to see what potential projects have available to them. In addition to the financing incentives, we also do write actually grants. We work with the applicants in a variety of capacities. I should note that the resources, staff time at the IDA are available to you at no cost. We are funded by the county. We cover all of Essex County. Some of the other things we do, we work with a variety of partners. In addition to financing and incentives, we also work with regulatory partners for permitting and development. We actually have several business parks that we help plan, develop, as well as manage and market. We participate in workforce development through the Regional Workforce Development Center. What else do we have? Grant writing. The Essex County IDA is made up of a board of directors. There are 7 board of directors who have the authority, if you will, to approve and decline applications. There are 3 staff members. There is myself. There is, in addition to myself, Jody Alcott, who's the other Essex County IDA co-director and CFO, and Sarah Brown, who is our administrative assistant for the office. The location of our office is in Elizabethtown. We are located at 7566 Court Street. Our phone number is 518-873-9114. Our website is www.essexcountyida.com. And we are available to help business development. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carol. And Dani Delani from ANCA. Go ahead, Dani.
Hi, thank you so much for hosting today, Matt, and your team at the Ticonderoga Area Chamber of Commerce. It's always such a pleasure to work with all of you who are liaisons in this program. You've already talked a little bit about CBIT, so I don't really need to go too much into that, but CBIT, the Center for Businesses in Transition, is organized by the Adirondack North Country Association through a grant through the Northern Border Regional Commission. And we really do appreciate the fact that this is very much a hub and spoke model where we are all working together and collaboratively to do this work. ANCA, the Adirondack North Country Association, helps to grow the new economy in the North Country, which is the 14 northernmost counties of New York. And we work in a bunch of different ways to sort of think about what that new economy could look like and how we can play a role in advancing equity and wealth and business development for everyone. So we work in clean energy, we work in local food systems, and we work in the entrepreneurial economy. We don't do the really important work that ADC, SBDC, the IDA, and our chambers do. Like we are not a technical service provider. So if you call us, we'll help connect you and talk about all sorts of issues and think of the sort of like next level up from that. But we don't like sit down with you and build a business plan. So that's not something the INCA or the Center for Business and Transition does. So we really focus, like Matt said, on sort of the connections and helping people to sort of start this process of thinking about transitioning their business and getting through common obstacles. And so I'm just going to quickly share my screen to show you one way that we do that might be worth focusing on quickly, which is that we have a brand new website. And this is at ownandnorthcountrybusiness.com or .org. And you can go here if you are a buyer or a seller, or if you're transitioning to your employees or doing a family transition. There's resources for everyone here, even though the sort of focus of this website is sort of outward facing for somebody who is more interested in buying an available business. There are resources here for everybody. So please check this out if you have a few minutes to sort of take in what's available on that website, kind of the services that we offer, more about our partnership information. And then we do have a series of featured businesses who are publicly for sale. There's a whole page of these, but I have a few more edits to do. So please bear with me on getting those up. And we also have a very long YouTube playlist that is available for folks too, with a bunch of resources, workshops just like this one, but on specific topics across the board, whether it's valuation, whether it's how to connect to a potential seller, whether it's cooperative development or worker ownership. We have lots of different resources, and those are all available online. We do try to record everything that we do and make it publicly available. If for any reason you do not have a connection to the internet, or you can't get to get your YouTube to work for any reason, please do reach out to one of our local liaisons. They are happy to sort of host you in their office, guide you through some of the resources that are available, and make that happen. So we don't want sort of internet connectivity or other barriers to participation to keep you from getting what you might need. So one of the things that we were excited to sort of showcase today, and you are the first folks seeing this, is over the course of the last year and a half, the Adirondack North Country Association, the Center for Business and Transition, all of our liaisons and partners, and the people talking here on the call today have been building workshops and information and having meetings and guiding people through this process, and specifically in our region. So taking all of that information that we have collectively gleaned from these experiences, we've put together a guidebook specifically for North Country business owners and those who are looking to sell a business. Again, this one is a little geared towards business owners, but if you're looking to sell a business, so much of this is so important for you as well. Because the more that you know about how did the business owner get to that valuation number? Like, how do you speak that same language? What are the things that you need to think about if you put yourself in their shoes? So this will guide you step by step sort of through the process. And you'll see in there, a lot like Angela was saying, over and over again, we are not financial professionals. We cannot take the place of your lawyer. Please talk to your accountant, your attorney, your real estate agent, all of those folks. But at least this kind of gets you in place, sort of, here's some of the steps I can take. Here's some of the common questions that you might want to dive into. And so all that is available online at that same website. And if you want more information about that, or would like a copy mailed to you, maybe you can't access it via internet or would prefer a mailed copy, please do reach out to us and we will share that with you for sure. And so I'm not going to talk much more. Just thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being with us today. And I'm excited about this sort of part of the program where we get to answer some questions and be put on the spot.
So before we get there, I just wanted to mention, and Dani kind of covered most of it, and I covered a bunch of the material on the Center for Business and Transition, but the program as a whole, obviously, the goal is to help business owners sell their business on the open market, or look at intergenerational family transitions. Also to look at the opportunity of employee-owned or cooperative model. So there's kind of different aspects of what a transition plan could look like for you. It's obviously based on on what you're looking to do for your particular business. So at this time, I'm going to actually introduce Erin Mullen. Erin is from the chamber office here with me. And what's going to happen now is Erin's going to pull some common challenges out of our little handy dandy basket here. And
Oh, Matt, you moved away from your mic a little bit, so it's harder to hear you, Brian.
Sorry about that. What we're going to do now is we're going to pull, we have different slips with some different common challenges and issues that businesses may face looking to transition. And we'll pull those one at a time. And we'll give each of the panelists an opportunity to respond to them. If someone on the panel already steals your answer and you want to add upon that, go right ahead. If not, you can just let us know that. So we're going to actually discuss 5 or 6 common issues. And again, send your questions and thoughts through the chat and we'll try to get to those. I know there was a quick comment about where to access list of possible real estate agents, lawyers, accountants. And obviously we suggest connecting with your local chamber of commerce based on the region that you're looking to own a business or operate a business in. So at this time, I'm going to let Erin take the show over.
You get to pick. All right, our first question is, where do I start? I'm thinking of selling and transition out of my business. How far in advance should I plan?
Well, I'm happy to take that question. So where do you start? I think, yes, absolutely. If you can plan 2 to 3 years ahead of time, for most people that own a business, they need to clean up sometimes some books and take a look at strengthening their business so they can get maximum value out of the business. But also finding that buyer, right, will take time. So there's quite a bit of preparation that goes into even before you publicly advertise your business for sale. Where to start? Center for Businesses in Transition is a great place to connect with, but also SBDC. We provide a lot of the technical assistance. So, and we will take you at any point in time on your journey, whether you're ready to sell tomorrow or just starting to think about it. And the same with a buyer. If you're just starting to think about it or have an opportunity in front of you, we're happy to talk to you at any point in your journey.
Can I add to that? I would love to say, you know,
Go ahead.
Angela is such a great resource in the SBDC, and you know, we'd love for you to come and fill out an inquiry form, but you should start from day one. You know, day one when you start your business, people aren't always thinking about that. You know, you want to get stuff off the ground. But the more that you can cross-train your employees to know more about the business overall, if you have employees, that's assuming you have employees. So that's just one thing to think about as you're going through sort of your business plan for the year or what you're going to do for your strategy. Like, who do you already have in place that, you know, maybe this year you just teach them a little bit more about the accounting. Maybe this year you show them a little bit more about the, you know, how your marketing works or how you find your clients. So oftentimes, you know, the best possible successor is somebody who already works for you. So the more that you can sort of lift them up and train folks and provide sort of professional development to take over what you do, you know, the better you're going to be later on in your business if you're looking for someone, if they're already there and already know how to do it. Just to add on to that.
Stephanie or Carol, anything to add?
I would say that I agree with Dani in that usually when people are writing their business plans, when they first have that idea for a business, we encourage them to do a succession plan within that business plan for what their plan is over time, so that they know how it's going to transpire when they do want to get to the point where they want to get out of the business.
All right, we'll move on to the next common challenge. Let's see what that might be.
You may have someone in mind to take over your business, but they may not be able to obtain financing.
Who wants to lead us off with this common issue?
That's a common challenge. You know, again, if you work with the SBDC, we typically, you know, always start the process with a bank, but we understand that sometimes, you know, there's a gap in funding or the bank doesn't want to do the project. So then we'll typically take a look at, economic development agencies in the region and see where there might be a good fit. But as I mentioned earlier, it's very common in the North Country that an owner, in order to get out, some of the profits from selling a business, may need to be involved in holding the note. So that's a very common approach to successfully transitioning a business in the North Country.
So here's an opportunity for me to talk about the IDA's revolving loan fund. So the way economic development revolving loan funds work is that we are considered gap financing measures. So where the project is not bankable in total or part, we would be able to look at that portion of the project. All of our applications for assistance to a revolving loan fund are available on our website. We are converting them so that they are online applications. There's typically a list of exhibits that need to accompany the applications. It looks very much like a bank application. We can partner with banks and other economic development agencies. However, I will revert back to Angela's comment a few moments ago on the first question. When we receive a phone call in reference to financing, startup expansions, the very first place we refer them upon completion of our conversation is to the Small Business Development Center or other resources like at ADC. We do not help prepare any of the applications. We do not help prepare business plans. We do not do any of the financial forecasting or analysis. We actually do the underwriting internally. In our case, upon completion of a loan application, those applications then get forwarded to the IDA's Board of Directors. Part of that process for applications that do make it to the IDA board for review is that applicants actually have to physically come in and do a presentation to our board so that they have an opportunity to discuss the project one-on-one with the board. So we do work very collaboratively with banks. We work very collaboratively with other economic development agencies. But again, the revolving loan fund from the Essex County IDA is a gap financing measure. Thank you.
Dani, anything to add?
I just added into the chat box, if you're not in Essex County, there's likely to still be a gap lender in your region, and the ADC, I think, will have more to say about this than I certainly do. But if you want to check out the guidebook on pages 16 to 17, there's a listing of, it may not be complete, but there is a listing of the financing agencies that can provide that kind of service throughout the North Country.
Stephanie?
Yes, ADC is also a gap lender. What a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of times banks won't take on the entire loan. So you might have to get, $10,000 here and 50 here and put together your whole project that way. We actually encourage people to go to banks first. For any loan that is $20,000 or more, we have to have a bank turn down letter. So we have them approach a bank, see if they can get the best rate that they can get. If for they want $20,000 or more, again, we have to have that bank turn down letter. Then they would come to us and we would have our internal underwriter help them with their application. And then it goes to our lending committee. It takes about the same time as a bank loan would. And also the application looks a lot like a bank loan.
I do want to jump quickly back in just to say, when we're talking to a lot of business owners, they often, maybe want to share their business with, or give their business to someone but who doesn't have the capital. And we've just seen a lot of cases where folks have really had to think really creatively, right? So gap lenders are amazing, banks are amazing, like anything that you can get sort of to be able to make that happen. But sometimes it's a question of how you can also break up the sale of the business. Maybe you just end up leasing the building for a couple more years to the new business. Maybe you sell the business as if it has your home in it or something, and that's like a traditional home mortgage, but the business is sold in a different way. Or in the case of cooperative or worker ownership transition, say all of your employees want to take it over together, there are additional financing resources specifically for that kind of transition, and there can be opportunities for your employees to take over as a worker co-op for a very low amount for them to be able to sort of get into that. You know, sometimes in some cases for worker transitions, the workers might even have to only put in $1,000, $500. Like, it depends on what the bylaws say, and they get to make the bylaws themselves. But there are some sort of very creative strategies that often include some sort of owner financing, like Angela was talking about. So just don't, you know, if you run into a wall where you're like, oh, this person really can't pay for it because they don't have good credit, period, like not looking into it any further, just don't stop there. You know, like really, you know, send them to one or all of us, and you know, we will really, really try to do what we can to sort of help you strategize how to think creatively about getting that sale finance.
Thank you all. We'll move on to the next common issue or concern.
Your potential success may not be able to afford the business with the debt load they would have to take on in order to purchase, or the business profit does not show enough to take on that debt.
So your potential successor can't afford the business.
Sorry.
So you may have someone lined up. Again, there's a financial concern. Kind of piggybacks to Angela.
We can't really hear you, Matt. Sorry.
Sorry, I think we're having a little bit of an issue here. But, so it kind of goes back to Angela's comment of she works with both buyers and sellers. But the issue is you have someone in mind to take over your business. But again, the finances, it may not be something that they could take on. We hear this commonly now in working with several of our businesses who are currently for sale. So you have someone set, you have someone planning to take over the business. However, they may not be able to take on that debt that the business has.
Yeah. And that's the conundrum of many people, right? If you want to get in business, you're going to have some skin in the game, right? No bank is going to lend 100%. Economic agencies want a lead partner. That's why, again, oftentimes, if the owner really, really wants to sell this business, maybe they're holding 100% of the note, but that's a risky proposition, right? So talk to your rich grandma, try and find other people maybe to come into the deal with you. But, you know, someone who wants to acquire business needs to have some money to put into the business. There might be some other programs, Dani, that you're familiar with, like in-kind financing. We see programs like that once in a while, especially around agriculture businesses. Cooperatives are a completely different way of accessing financing, but for most traditional small business sales, whether it's, you know, most of the time it's an asset sale, you know, if the owner holds a note, they might be able to hold 100%, but there's nobody else that I know that is going to hold 100% of the note. So you're going to have to plan, you know, 20% is kind of the magic number of down payment, but it could be more or less depending if SBA gets involved or if maybe one of the GAP lenders is willing to take less money down.
Any of the other panelists want to address that concern?
AEDC requires 10%.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. So many businesses, as we mentioned, may not know the worth of their business. How do they actually get an evaluation of the worth? We've been asked this several times.
So I can talk about what the SBDC can assist with. So we can do, again, what's considering, you know, rule of thumb valuation. So again, we will look at the last 3 years of tax return with a business owner, identify potentially expenses that would not follow the sale. So then we can identify what's called seller's discretionary earnings. From there, we would use an industry multiplier that's published, right? So it's kind of like when you want to put your house on the market, you would look at what comp homes have sold for. That's a little bit what the industry multiplier is. It'll look over the last 10 years, hair salons, you know, within a certain size sells for and gives you some industry multipliers. And that provides you with a range, right, of what the business might sell for. Then depending on the assets that go with it, you know, plus or minus those assets. So that's what the SBDC can provide. But if you're going to sell stock, do estate planning as part of transferring a business to your family members, that's a different ballgame. You're going to have to hire a professional business valuation expert, because those become legal documents, right? Where we start the conversation can help you set your price. But really, you know, valuations, again, are only worth what someone is paying for. You can talk to 100 valuation expert and get potentially, you know, different numbers. So it's a starting point for the conversation. And yeah, that's my 2 cents on how you can get kind of a ballpark valuation. And the professional valuations are expensive. You know, I think you probably can plan on $2,000 and up. And, you know, if it's a larger business, I've seen them at $20,000. So yeah, think long and hard about how important evaluation is to your transition process and how much you're willing to spend.
I'll add to that you know, we last year, Angela was wonderful to help us bring to our region a valuation sort of expert who works for the SBDC, and that's Peter Pappas, and there are 2 videos on our website. I just put the first one in the chat box. So there are 2 different videos that are really in depth about valuation that we have available on our YouTube channel, and a little bit of information in that guidebook. But really, if you really need to think about the valuation of your business, those are some great resources for you to go into. If you cannot afford a valuation, but you have all of your ducks in order and you need somebody to look at it, you know, definitely reach out to us or one of our partners. We can also, you know, has been in the last 2 years some opportunities to be able to sit down with a consultant. Again, not the kind of valuation that's going to hold up in your divorce, but to have a consultant look over the things that you put together and make some recommendations. It's not a substitute for a, you know, large scale valuation if that is something you need. But if you have a 1-person business and you're selling it for $10,000, there's no reason you need a $5,000 valuation, right? I mean, that's up to you. If you want to do that, that's fine. But most people would find that to not be what they need. So just there are more resources about that available, and I hope that you check them out.
And just one additional note, people get stuck on the valuation piece, but what is really more important is cash flow. You have to do cash flow analysis to see if the numbers work or not. That's really where, you know, I'll do valuations and our team does valuations for people, but the cash flow is the most important document to see if you know, if you're selling a business and you're making money because you have no debt, it works for you. But if you're going to sell it and now there's debt involved for a buyer, do the numbers still work? That's really where the important conversation comes in.
Carol or Stephanie, anything to add? So the next common concern, so I'm a business owner and I know someone who is interested in taking over my business, but I know they need additional training, they need a business plan, and they need a general more understanding of business ownership. Where do I start? Who do I start with? Where do I go?
AEDC will help you with a business plan. We also do business training. If the person is not ready at this time in order to take over the business, you might want to think about, you know, waiting for a while. And as Dani described earlier, letting them take on a little more responsibility and getting more familiar with the organization, so that sometime in the future that they can take over the business.
Same with the SBDC. So we have a slew of technical assistance programs, lots of workshop that we do on an annual basis. One thing is the SBDC cannot work with employees. So we don't do necessarily training for people that are not business owners or looking to acquire a business. That's really where we live, is working with the owners or someone who's going to be the owner of the business. So we don't really do training for staff members, but there's certainly many other organizations in our region, whether it's accountants or HR people, that we can refer you to for specific training. Again, as part of preparing to sell for your business, you may want to invest, right, in a little bit of training, especially if you're looking to sell to an employee to bring their skills up. But there's certainly lots of resources out there, so happy to talk through more specific cases on a one-on-one basis.
I'll add to that. If you, all right, you're a business owner, you're going to transition to somebody else. Say they already work for you, or you have a few employees that already work for you, but they need like a particular certification that isn't something, you know, it's like a groundwater pump that was an example we had. Like somebody needs some sort of groundwater pumps, I don't know what it was, pump certification. But we looked into and offered to finance that particular training through some of our other partners like the WDI or other places. So like if there's something that's really specific and you're like, this person just needs this one thing and then they can take over the business, please, please, please do not hesitate to sort of reach out and tell us, and we will try to do everything we can to figure out how to get that training financed if it's a barrier to taking over the business. Certainly that's not a promise, and it obviously depends on what it is, but it could be something that we can work together to overcome.
Carol, anything you want to add?
I think the resources that Dani and Angela and Stephanie identified are the reference points that we would refer people to as well.
So I'll just add, obviously, as part of the Center for Business and Transition and representing the Chamber of Commerce, we work with all of the agencies that are on the call today and many others. So we're always regularly meeting with our current businesses and people who are looking to start a business, provide them an array of resources. And so we often say, you know, start with us. We have connections with all the agencies you're going to need to work with. And we can really give you a lot of background information and kind of get you started in the right direction. So I'll give that little plug for the Chamber of Commerce. And most chambers of commerce do operate that way. So our last kind of topic for discussion for the panel before we take any other questions that might be in the chat. Are there any common challenges that you as a resource partner have encountered or dealt with that you can share in regards to a business transitioning or new entrepreneurs taking over a business? Is there a common concern or issue that you've encountered that you could share with us? And let's start with Angela.
When it comes to sellers, prepare. A lot of times people think I'm going to sell my business when I'm ready. I'll stick a sign up and buyers will come in. Not the case. You have to clean up your books. You have to improve the capacity of the business to transition, right? If you are the business, it's very difficult to separate from the owner. You're reducing the value of your business. If you're not reporting all your income or there's lots of personal expenses that don't belong in there, you're again reducing the value of your business. So preparing 2 to 3 years ahead of time, having a good strategy, it takes time to find that buyer. You know, we're often very seasonal in the Adirondack, so the timing of when the business should transition from a seller to a buyer becomes important. If I'm a restaurant, right, and I make money July, August, and September, I can promise you when we do cash flow analysis, no buyer is going to want to take over your business in October and carry, right, expenses all the way to next summer. So the timing of when you sell your business is important. So there's lots of different aspects to consider before you put that for sale sign on. And what we're seeing a lot is people wait too long, and the national averages are the same about people sell their businesses 2 years too late, right? They're burnt out, they might become sick. COVID right now is putting a lot of pressure on people that may have underlying health conditions or now they're economically distressed. So that's difficult because you'll end up doing a fire sale or finding no buyer and just giving up and closing down the business. So for yourself, but also for the region, if you want to see your business continue, please engage as soon as possible in planning your transition.
Carol, any particular common issue or problem that you've encountered?
I would say from the IDA's perspective, we obviously deal more with the person who'd be taking over the business rather than the seller. And typically I think when they're buying a business or taking over a business, there's lots of unknowns, and, you know, getting into the community as a buyer. If you're not from the community, learn as much about the community as possible. You know, Angela's words of wisdom about selling the business, very indicative of the majority of the small businesses we work with. So having a better understanding of how the business functions, how the highest potential for you know, revenue generation, knowing that business well enough where you can articulate it to a potential resource such as a bank, an economic development agency, so that we have a confidence level in you as a potential applicant. We always ask for, in our applications, the resumes of the owners and key management, and there's a significant reason why. We want to make sure that in addition to the financing, that the professional development, the ability to either expand or take over that business, the intellect is there, or the collective resources of the people that are available, whether they are paid staff or resources of people such as SCORE or SBDC or AEDC, that we know you have that kind of capacity behind them. In addition to that, there's often, even after, if there's a bank involved and or economic development agencies, as Angela said several times now, you know, the owner may very well have to be a participant. And I know in my experience, that has absolutely happened many times. So I think taking advantage of the resources, or knowing the resources, and you're right, Matt, I think the chambers absolutely play a significant role in this whole process. And the other thing is, this is a very intimidating process. And I think having resources from everybody who's participating on this phone call and others, and not being hesitant to reach out to them. We all work very well together and are happy to refer you to our partners to make sure that there isn't a gap in resources available to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Stephanie?
I would say that people a lot of times don't know where to start. I get a lot of phone calls that people say, I'm thinking about selling my business, but I have no idea what to do. And so basically just making those phone calls, making those connections, getting referrals. We refer people to CBIT after we have an initial conversation with them, if that's what's appropriate. I would also say that I agree with Angela in that people come a lot of times to our office too late because they are sick or there's a family problem and they have to get out of the business or they're disabled. So I would say that people need to have that succession plan in place as early as possible so that if something does come up, they're not having to do like a quote unquote fire sale or just simply shut down the business and not sell it at all.
Dani, anything to add?
Yeah, two things. One is that, you know, one of the things I often do sort of initial interviews with business owners, as well as aspiring entrepreneurs thinking about taking over a business. But I think sometimes it's easy to sort of jump into the valuation part. It's easy to think about, you know, how do I actually get this sale done? Who's going to come in and do it? You know, can this employee do this for X, Y, Z reasons? And it's easy to jump to the numbers. But sometimes one of the things that I see the most is that it's easy to forget that it's a person also making a big life choice. Or that person thinking about taking over the business is also making a big life choice. And there's risks on either end, you know, whether you decide to retire tomorrow or you decide to retire 3 years from now. Oftentimes when I'm talking to someone, they've had not oftentimes, but, you know, fairly enough, but, you know, they're ready to sell their business because they have an illness in the family or they're getting older and have to take care of a different loved one. And so just keeping those things in mind, that sometimes, you know, planning ahead of time is not just about sort of financial retirement, but also sort of the your own sort of personal well-being and the well-being of your employees, and thinking about sort of the emotional labor that goes into that. And you know, I always ask business owners, what are you going to do the Monday after they retire? You know, and it's so great to hear about their hopes and dreams. About most of them, honestly, most people say, I'm just going to sleep in. Just one day, I'm going to sleep in, because small business owners work around the clock. And so, you know, just thinking about, you know, as we try to work with folks, and as you try to plan this out, you know, making sure that you're taking care of yourself and thinking about it from that standpoint too. A lot of people end up changing their mind if they've decided to take over a business, and, you know, they start getting down the pathway. Like, wow, this is more work than I thought, or it's just not what I want to do. And understanding that it's a big change for everyone, and we just need to be mindful of that, both, you know, as we work with you, but also, you know, thinking about that for yourself and the person or people maybe taking over. That it's a big to do, and it has a lot of impacts on personal lives and on our communities. You know, if we lose one pizza shop in New York City, that's not really a huge deal. I mean, it's a big deal to that person, but like in our communities up here, if we lose one pizza shop in a town where there's only 3 restaurants, there's a big impact. And I know a lot of small business owners take that on their own shoulders really often, that, you know, they don't want to close or transition because they're such a staple in the community, and it's important for that community to thrive. So it's just a lot of layers of, for lack of a better word, there's a lot of layers of feelings there, and to really think about that and take care of yourself in the process.
Thank you, Dani. We do have a question, and all of you can answer, or if one of you want to take it on, it's fine. Are you seeing a delay or gap in available resources due to COVID-19 aftershock? Should I wait to transition? Anyone have any thoughts on that question?
When it comes to the SBDC, we're finally digging out, right, of all the COVID assistance, because of course, when it hit mid-March, pretty much all the way to like June, July, that's exclusively what we were working on. There was little space available for much else, but we're actually seeing inquiries about people who want to start businesses. A lot of people want to buy businesses because they're looking to exit cities and maybe come up here where there's fresh air and lots of space. So I would think it's a good time to sell a business right now, because there's definitely renewed interest in relocating to rural areas. So that is potentially a positive thing for our region that came out of the COVID crisis.
And I would agree with that. As far as the chamber is concerned, we're seeing the exact same thing. I didn't necessarily expect that. And we've had to see definitely an increase in people looking to stay and live here, transition here, take over a business, start a business. So those services continue to be available, whether COVID's here or COVID's not here. So, but I definitely think that's become maybe a positive for the North Country in regards to COVID.
And when it comes to the SBDC, we've actually received additional funding to support business owners. So we have disaster counselors and consultants. Kim Mannion's on this call today. Kim Mannion is very experienced buying and selling businesses. So we do have additional resources and expertise right now for people that are looking to buy and sell a business. So definitely take advantage of that.
Wonderful, thank you. Anyone else want to address that question?
So from an economic development standpoint, again, we are a gap financing partner. In Essex County, we have a pretty healthy loan fund balance. So we do have resources available. I think it's important to realize and understand again that like AEDC and other economic development revolving loan fund offers, that banks either are required to be involved or a bank declination is required. The other thing is to be patient. This process takes longer than most people anticipate. Learn and listen from your resources, personal and professional, but hopefully the business seller, the entrepreneur who's interested in buying it, are working together and have an understanding that this is not a short process, nor should it be, because as Dani indicated very appropriately, these are life-changing decisions. And I think in our capacity, It's about providing resources to help people make better educated decisions for themselves. Whatever that means at the end of the day, we're resource providers and information providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Dani or Stephanie? Anything to add?
You know, we haven't seen, you know, I don't think the sort of educational resources have changed any because of COVID. If not, and like Angela pointed out, you know, in some cases we actually have a little bit more capacity, but we're definitely seeing a lot more aspiring entrepreneurs who are interested in taking over businesses and who are more motivated. You know, for the first sort of maybe 6 months to a year of the program, we talked to a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs who were interested in sort of thinking about their options, but now people who call tend to be more along the lines of like, this is the kind of business I want. This is how much it's got to cost. I've already got my financial stuff in order. I'm ready to go, right? It's a very different conversation and a different relationship. There are a lot of people who, because of this sort of crisis this year, have decided that it is the time to make a change, and they're very serious about it. And, you know, it's never too soon to start thinking about this and getting your strategy in place, because you don't know if the right person might walk in the door tomorrow. Then that's great, and you'll be ready. If, you know, one of your employees is thinking about taking over, and you start having that conversation and figure it out over a longer term, it's still a good time to do that, because the sooner the better.
Stephanie, anything to add?
I would say that we have experienced the same thing as Angela's saying. Within the last couple of months, we've gotten a lot of a big uptick in people who don't need the COVID assistance anymore, but are interested in buying businesses and selling businesses. Also, we have received additional funding from New York State, so we have the time in terms of assistance, the business assistance, the counseling that we can provide to people. So I would say that I think it's a good time.
Great. We do have a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions, you can send them through the chat. Or Dani, I think they can unmute themselves, correct, and ask a question. So we have about 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes. If there's any other questions, if you want to ask a particular resource directly, or if you want to ask the group as a whole, please feel free to do so. We'll give you just a minute.
Maybe while people think about a question, a little closing thought from things that I've seen is, especially with sellers, when you are working with either ADC, SBDC, CBIT, we are part of your marketing strategy, but we will not do the work for you. And, you know, a few times I've met with business owners like, so, are you going to sell my business? Or so, how many businesses have you sold? It's important to understand we're a part of your team and the discussion around selling your business, but ultimately you're the one that has to do the work around selling your business. We can provide, you know, technical assistance, we can provide information, but we're not going to find a buyer for you necessarily, and we're not going to sell the business. We're not brokers. So I think that's important to understand when you do work with us, that we're a piece of the puzzle. We're not going to, you know, necessarily do the business plan for you, do the financials for you. You have to participate in that process and move it forward.
And it's a very good point, Angela. Obviously, in collective, we're your business support and services team, but we're just a piece of that team. You're the main driver, and you're the main person that's going to need to do the work. But we're here to support you and help make other things happen. Dani, there was a question if the slides and answers will be online. This is being recorded, and I believe this will be available on the CBIT website, correct, Dani? So
Yes.
that answers that question. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here this morning with us. I want to thank our resource partners for providing valuable information this morning. If you need anyone's contact information, if you need to connect with anyone directly, feel free to reach out to CBIT, the chamber, any of us directly. We'll be happy to connect you. And as Angela said, we are your business resource team, and we are here to help you in any way we can. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much again to our resource partners.
Sorry. And check out the rest of the series.
Yes, please do. This is the first one. You want to stay on a second, Dani?
Dani, I'm gonna have to switch.
So Matt, we have to get off
Okay.
this line because we have another thing coming up.
Okay.
But just quickly, and did any of the other panelists stay on? Or did they jump off? Okay, I'll just call you directly, okay?
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.